In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this n8n workflow that will upload documents from a Google Drive folder into the Pinecone vector store. This automation will automatically take the document, reformat it into structured JSON objects, organize all your files, and upload the new restructured document into the Pinecone vector database, making it easily retrievable for a RAG system AI chatbot. My name's Kirk. I teach people how to build automations. You can check the description of this video where you'll find the link to my school community. If you join my school community, you'll have access to all of these automation templates and blueprints, n8n workflows, all my tools and resources for free. You'll have access to the community to interact with others, learn how to build, and grow in the community space. You'll have access to all of the course modules in my classroom where I post full step-by-step how-to videos on how to make each of these automations. This is a growing community full of very excited people. It has been super fun interacting with everybody and learning this stuff together. So I look forward to seeing you over there. For now, let's jump into this one. All right, let's jump into it. Here I am in my n8n dashboard. I'm in my saved digital automation diagram workflows project. I'm gonna come up to create workflow, click on that. This will start our new workflow in a new canvas space. I'm gonna come up here to name the workflow. Click into there. I'll name this Advanced Google to Pinecone Demo. You can name this workflow whatever you want. Then I'll come up here and click Save. Let's set up the first node, click the big plus. First node is going to be Google Drive. Anytime you want to find a node in n8n, you can type in the search bar. I'll just type in Google and we can find Google Drive. Click on that. We want to find this trigger node on changes involving a specific folder. Let's click on that. And now we can set up the Google Drive credential for this connection. To set up your Google Drive credential, you can click into this drop down, click on Create New Credential, and come into the n8n docs. Click on this, and you can follow along in the docs to set up your credential. Alternatively, I have the tutorial in my school community. If you want to watch that video on how to set up your Google Drive credential, get your Google account set up with n8n, you can jump over there and follow along with that tutorial. Once you have your Google Drive credential set up, we can change the poll time. This is essentially when this automation will run and check for new files in your Google Drive folder. For this tutorial, I'm just going to leave it as every minute. Then we can come down and choose a folder from the list. So click into this drop down and search for a new folder. But first, let's go into my actual Google Drive and create some automated folders. I'm going to come into my Google Drive. All right, here I am in my drive. These are my folders. I have this folder here called Automation Dump, YouTube Demos, and I want to create some automation folders in here. Now we can see some automated folders I already have. I'll delete these out, recreate them just so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to delete these two folders and we can set up those folders for automation. So I'm going to right click in here, click on Create New Folder. I'm going to call this Upload to Pinecone Demo. You can name your automated folder whatever you want. I'll create that. Then I'm going to create another folder for processed files. Right click again, click Create New Folder. Call this Processed Files in Pinecone Demo. You can name this folder whatever you want. I'll click Create. Now for our automated upload folder, I'm going to come over here and change the permissions. Click on this button to share. I'll set the general access to anyone with the link and click done. Now we have a public folder that n8n can access. I'm going to jump back into n8n and now I can search for that automated folder from this list. So I'll click into here, click into the search bar and type in upload to Pinecone Demo. There it is. I can choose that new folder. For watch for, click in here, we can select file created. Any new files created inside this folder will trigger the automation. Technically, we can test this trigger. However, we need to put a file into that folder so that this trigger can run properly. I'm gonna bring up my Google Drive folder structure here. So I'm in my Google Drive in my automation dump folder here, and I have my YouTube demos folder. Inside of this folder, I have those two new folders I just created for automation. So we need to get a document into that automated folder so that we can actually upload it to the Pinecone vector store. So I'm going to drop in here my Desert Oasis Airbnb listing. I'll open this up. I had ChatGPT create a fake Airbnb listing for Phoenix area. This would be a document you could show to your guests, having all the information a guest might need to stay at at this Airbnb. This would be a document that you want your RAG system to interact with and pull information from. So this is the document I'm going to add into my automated folder. Jump back into n8n. I'll pull up my folder structure. Here's my document, and here is my upload to Pinecone folder. I'm going to drop this document into that automated folder. Upload to Pinecone demo. Now we need to keep in mind, to run this automation, to run this workflow in n8n, this is a Google Drive folder. So we need to make sure that all of your documents, all your files have finished uploading to Google Drive before we try and run the workflow. So inside of my upload to Pinecone demo folder, here is my document. Cool. So now we have some information in our folder. I'm going to go ahead and test the event. Click on fetch test event in n8n, and we can see that node executed successfully from our trigger node. We now have an output. This is getting all of this information from that document. So if I scroll down, I can see in the spaces array, we have the document name right here and all the details about this document. Cool. We can move on to the next node. I'm going to click outside this node or click back to canvas. Now, anytime you want to navigate the canvas area, you can hold spacebar on the keyboard, click and drag around. You can hold Command or Control on the keyboard to zoom in and out. So I'm going to add the next node here. I'll click this plus to add the next node. This is going to be Google Drive. Type in Google Drive, and we want to download a file. Cool. Now in the input section over here, we can see everything coming from our Google Drive trigger. All of the schema, all of the elements in this list coming from our Google Drive trigger. We can change the view over here. If you prefer a different view, we have the JSON view. We can see all of the JSON coming from the Google Drive trigger and the table view. I prefer the schema view. I'm not a coder, so I just like seeing all these elements listed out just like that. So what we need in our Google Drive download node, we can leave all these settings the same. For file, click in here, we're going to say by ID. Then we can scroll down in the input section, find that spaces array, spaces, and find the file ID right here. Click and drag that schema to map it into this field right here. That'll link the file ID to our Google Drive download node. Under options, click add option. For this one, we're going to say Google file conversion. Click on add conversion. And for Google Docs, change this to text. This will convert the Google Doc straight into TXT or a text file. Come up here, test this step. Now we can see that information is pulled through. We can click on this button to actually download that file to our computer. I'm going to come to the schema view in the output over here, and we can see all the details of that file coming through. Great, that looks good. Let's click out of this node. Click the plus to create a new node. You can type in extract. We want to extract from file, and we're going to extract from text file. In the schema view over here, we can see again everything coming through from the Google Drive download node into the extract from file. This node is good just like this. Come up, click test step, and we can see the data getting extracted, the plain text from our Google Drive document. So we have the Desert Oasis Retreat Airbnb information coming through as data. Great. I'm going to click out of this node, click on the plus to create a new node, and we're going to choose Advanced AI. Click on that, click on OpenAI. Now for this step, you can use a different language model to do this conversion. I'm working on low code conversions as well. For this tutorial, we're working with OpenAI, and we're going to have ChatGPT essentially convert our file into JSON objects. So I'm going to choose message a model. Now you're going to want to set up your OpenAI credential here. Same as Google Drive, you can click into this field, come down, click create new credential, open up the docs and follow along in the docs to set up your OpenAI credential. If you want to jump into the school community, I have the link down below. You can check out the tutorial on how to set up your OpenAI credential. Once you have that connection set up, we can move on down to model. Let's choose a model from the list. This will be GPT-4o mini. And for the text, this will be the user input or user prompt. So for the user prompt, I'm just going to say, read this doc. Now the doc we want this to read is this one right here from our extracted file data. I'm going to click and drag the data, drop this in there right there. And now ChatGPT will read this doc. Cool, let's scroll down, add a message. This message will be the role of the assistant, and we're gonna add an assistant prompt in here. So to expand this text box out, I'll click into it, I'll click on expression, then click this little expansion icon right here, and we can type in our prompt right here. So you can copy and paste what I have here. This will provide the assistant instructions to reformat our document into structured JSON objects. So you can pause the video, type out this prompt, or if you're like me and don't like to type anything, you can take a screenshot of this text, come into ChatGPT and drop that screenshot in there like that and say, please write out this text so I can copy and paste it. There we go. There's the prompt just like that. You can copy it here and paste it back into n8n right there. I'm gonna close out this expression window. We've got our prompt in the text section here, and we can come up to test step. This is gonna take a minute. This is actually running through ChatGPT and restructuring this document into JSON. So there it is. There's our content output. Now, just to clarify what's going on here a little bit, we have our content being output by this OpenAI node. This is essentially a new document with JSON objects inside of the document. We could, inside of this OpenAI node, scroll down, uncheck simplify output, and check output content as JSON. What this will do is actually break up the content into JSON objects. That is a route you can go if you want much more granular inputs into your vector database. Just to show you what happens when we test this output, we have our content, the property name, description, location, the city key with the information, all of this stuff separated into JSON, right? We can take a look at the JSON view and see everything separated out just like this. Now, what this is going to do when you run this through your Pinecone vector store is separate out each section, each JSON into a unique record. That's going to create a bunch of records in here with each JSON being an individual record. So that is a route you can go. This is skipping ahead a little bit just to show you that you could take this approach to output as a JSON, but it's up to you on how you organize your records. So getting back to where we are at, I'm going to just simplify this and uncheck output content as JSON, rerun this, and we have our JSON document. Again, this is a document containing JSON objects. This is not a JSON file. Great. We can click outside of this node. Let's click the plus to create a new node. This is going to be Google Drive. There's Google Drive. We want to create a folder. Make sure you choose your same Google Drive credential. All of these settings can stay the same. For the folder, I want to name this folder the same thing as my document title. So for the folder name, I'll scroll down, find my document. This is all the way back down in the Google Drive nodes from the beginning. So here's the Google Drive trigger. We can scroll down and find the spaces, name. There's my document name. This is what I want to name my folder. You can name your folder whatever you want. This is going to be a new folder that gets created inside of your folder structure to keep all of your documents organized automatically. So you can name it whatever you want for your own organization. I like to name my folder the same thing as my document so I know where things are going. So I'm going to click and drag this name into the folder name here. That'll link that right there. We can leave this the same, and for the parent folder, now we can choose which folder we want to create this folder inside of. So I'll click this drop down in the search bar, search for my other folder in Google Drive. This is the processed folder. Here it is, processed files in Pinecone demo. This is where I want my new folder to be created to keep everything organized and processed. Great, we can go ahead, test this step. It's beneficial to always test your step, keep moving data down through. That way you don't have to stop and rerun the entire workflow to get this data moving down your automation chain. So here we have our output. New folder has been created. That looks good. I'm gonna click outside of this node. I'm gonna right click on this node, rename it, create document folder, just for my personal organization. I'll hit rename. Let's click the plus to create a new node. This will again be Google Drive. Now we want to move a file. Choose your same credential. Leave everything the same. Let's select the file by ID. Click in here, choose by ID, and we can move our file by ID. So we want to find the file that we're trying to move. This is our new folder. Let's scroll down in the input, and we can choose the file ID from the Google Drive download node or the Google Drive trigger node. I'll use the file ID from the trigger node, scroll down to the spaces and find the file ID. Click and drag that file ID to link it up in there. We can leave this the same. And for the parent folder, we're going to move this into our new folder that was just created in the last step. So I'm going to choose by ID, scroll all the way back up, and at the top we have our new folder that was created and that folder ID right here. I'm going to click and drag that folder ID in there. Now we have our file being moved into our new folder. Cool, let's go ahead and test that step, and we've got that coming through. Great, so I'm going to click outside of this node. Let's click the plus to add the next node. This is going to be Google Docs. We want to create a document. Now, same thing as Google Drive, you're going to need to get into the Google Cloud Console to set up your Google Docs connection using the Google Docs API. You can click into this dropdown, click on Create New Credential, open the Docs, and follow along to create your Google Docs connection. Again, I have the tutorial for this in my school community. If you check the link below, you can join my school community and find the tutorial on how to set up your Google Docs credential in n8n. Once you have your credential set up, we can move on down. We can leave everything here the same. And for the folder name or ID, we want to create this new document in our new folder. So I'm just going to click and drag the folder ID into this field right here, link that right there, and we can enter in a title for this document. This document is going to be reformatted JSON doc. You can name it whatever you want, but I just want to distinguish this document from the original. They'll be side by side in our new folder. So this is the reformatted version that will get uploaded to the Pinecone database. All right, let's test this step, and we can see in the output we have that coming through. Now, if you get this error here saying you don't have access to credentials in Google Docs node, I'm going to jump back into my Google Drive and additionally share the processed files folder. So I'm going to come over here, click on Share under General Access, choose anyone with the link, and click Done. I'll come back into n8n, click Test Step, and that executed successfully. Great. I'm going to click outside of this node. You can click the plus to create a new node. This will again be Google Docs. Click on that. We want to update a document. Choose the same credential. For the document ID, we're going to add the ID from the document that was just created in the last node. So I'm going to click and drag this ID into there. Link that. I'm going to uncheck simplify. I want all of the raw data coming through. We can leave all of these the same. And for the text, we're going to input the text from ChatGPT. So I'm going to scroll down in the input, find OpenAI, and grab the content from OpenAI node. Drop that into the text, link that right there. Great, let's come up and test this step. We've got that data coming through. I'm going to click outside of this node, click the plus to create a new node. This will be Google Drive. We're going to download a file. Choose your same credential. We want to download a file by ID and select that new document ID right here. We can choose the document ID from the Google Docs Create a Document node or the Google Docs Update a Document node. This ID is the same as this document ID. I'm going to grab this document ID, drop it in there. Under Options, I'll add an option, Google File Conversion. Click Add Conversion. And for Google Docs, I'll drop this down and convert it to plain text, TXT, just like that. Let's go ahead and test this step, and we've got our new document being downloaded. I'll check the schema view. That is coming through. Let's click outside of this node. All right, we can move on. Let's click the plus to create the next node. This is going to be our Pinecone vector store. I'm going to type in vector store. This is a list of the vector stores that n8n has integrations with. I use the Pinecone vector store, so I'm going to choose this one, and I want to add documents to vector store. Same thing as before, we need to create our credential here for Pinecone. I'll walk you through this one really quickly. It's very straightforward to create this credential. So I'm going to jump over to Pinecone. All right, here I am in my Pinecone. I've logged into my account. What you're going to need to start off is your API keys. I'm going to come over here to API keys. You can see my list of API keys. I have this one called n8n demo. I'll just delete this one and recreate it for this video. What you're going to want to do is click on Create API Key. You can name your key whatever you want. I'll name this one n8n demo, click create key. Now this is your API key. You're going to want to copy this, keep this safe. I'll copy my API key, come back into n8n, come into the credentials here, drop this down, click on create new credential, and paste that API key right there. I can name this connection Pinecone API account demo. You can name yours whatever you want, then click save. I'll close out of this window and we can fill out this information here. We want to insert documents into our index from this list. So let's jump back over to Pinecone and create a new index. In Pinecone, I'll close out of this window. I'll come to database, indexes, and you can see my index right here. What you're gonna do is click on create new index. You can name your index. I'll name mine n8n demo. For configuration, you can choose text embedding 3 small. For capacity mode, you can leave as serverless. For cloud provider, you can choose AWS, and for region, you can choose Virginia, then click create index. This will create your new index here where all of your data will automatically get stored. So I'm going to jump back into n8n. We can now choose that new index from this list. I'm going to drop this down, choose my new n8n demo index. Now something I like to do under options, add an option, click on Pinecone namespace. You can add a namespace here to your Pinecone database. This will be Airbnb listings, for example. You can think of a namespace in Pinecone similar to a folder where sets of data will get stored together. If you have different sets of data, for example, Airbnb listings and onboarding for a new client, you can sort all of your Airbnb listings into an Airbnb namespace and client onboarding into a work or job namespace. So when you're looking for a particular document, for example, a specific Airbnb listing, you can query your Airbnb listings namespace and not query your entire Pinecone vector database, costing money and costing time to search for a document. You can narrow down your search. I'm going to create this Airbnb listings namespace. Now this Pinecone vector store node, if we come down here, you can see actually needs 2 more nodes here. It needs an embedding and a document node. So I'm going to click on the embedding. This is a list of the available embeddings nodes in n8n. I'm going to choose the OpenAI embeddings. Choose my same credential and leave the model as text embedding 3 small. I'll click outside of this node and we can add our document loader. Click the plus to add the document loader. We'll use the default data loader here. And that's all we need here, but this document loader also needs a text splitter. I'll click on that. We can choose a text splitter and we'll choose the recursive character text splitter. This character text splitter smartly breaks up documents and data into chunk sizes, and you can set a chunk size and chunk overlap for your data. So if you have larger documents, you're going to want to add larger chunk sizes in here with larger chunk overlap. If you have smaller documents, you can get away with smaller chunk sizes. So for this one Airbnb guest document, I'll put a chunk size of 500 characters with a chunk overlap of 50 characters. I'll click outside of this node. We can double check everything that has happened so far in this automation chain. So I'm going to get into my Google Drive, check my upload to Pinecone folder. See, there's nothing in here. It has been moved to my process folder. And inside my process folder, we have the new folder that was created with the title of the original document. I'll open this one up, and we have the original document with the reformatted version of the document. If I open this new document, we can see everything has been arranged into nice and tidy JSON objects. Everything is nice and organized and optimized for the vector database and for easy retrieval with a RAG system. So now I'm going to flip this one around a little bit. Taking a look at what we've done here. First of all, I'll just come up here to save the workflow. This entire section was for personal record keeping in Google Drive. This is creating a new folder, creating a new document, and moving both documents, the new one and the original, into the folder and setting us up to download the new document. This entire section was for keeping all your records and keeping all your data in Google Drive organized for yourself. Everything that's going into the Pinecone vector store to be interactable via a RAG system is actually coming from the OpenAI node, right? We are creating a new document with that JSON and then loading that document into the vector store. We can actually bypass this entire route and output directly from the OpenAI node into the Pinecone vector store. So now that we have this one set up, I'm gonna hover over this route. Hover over the route, click the little trash can, that'll delete that route and unlink this node. Now for this section of nodes, I'm just gonna click and drag a box around these nodes here, move them up out of the way. Then I can click and drag a box around the Pinecone vector store section, move this over here, then connect it directly to the OpenAI node. So I'm gonna hover over this dot and drag this connection into the Pinecone vector store. So now we're actually going to be uploading the formatted JSON directly from the OpenAI node. This route will keep and organize our documents so you can see the JSON file that's actually moving into the vector store node. You'll have a backup copy of that JSON file in case you need to look up exactly what is going into your vector store. With this Google Drive download node, we can send this off to other tools. For example, Airtable, for myself, I'd add an Airtable node here and load all of my documents into Airtable. That way I have a view of everything right there for myself inside of Airtable. I would go that route, but we'll save that expansion for another video. All right, I'll double click on the Pinecone vector store node, open it back up and click test step. And we can see in the table view in the output, we have this document being broken up into chunks where you can see how it was arranged in Pinecone. Let's jump over to Pinecone in our database indexes and n8n demo index. We have our records coming through here. We now have a record count of 5. If we go back into n8n, we can see these chunks getting broken up. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks. Back into Pinecone, let's come into the namespaces here and we can see our Airbnb listings namespace with 5 new records. Great, so everything is working perfectly. Let's jump back into n8n. I'll come into the schema view. We can see everything has come across. I'll click out of the node. And now there's one more thing that I want to do in this build just to test out our new vector store. So simply to show you how this one is working, I'm going to add in this basic chatbot right here just to test out our workflow we just created. Okay, I'll go ahead and start a chat down here and ask my agent, how much is this Airbnb? Even with my misspellings here, we got that answer back. The Airbnb has a nightly rate of $175 on weekdays, $225 on weekends, and some of the fees. Let's ask something like, is there parking? Yes, there's free parking available at the Airbnb. Awesome. Let's ask another question. How many bedrooms? Airbnb has 2 bedrooms. Great. Please list everything that is included. And we get a whole list of everything included. Excellent. So again, I just added this in here to test out this upload. I'll include this testing chatbot in this workflow available for download in the school community. If you want to see how to build this chatbot right here, I have that YouTube video. I'll put the link up. You can check it out and see how to build this easy testing chatbot. Now to reiterate on what you can do with the JSON file example, I'm going to come back into the OpenAI node here, scroll down and reconfigure this to output content as JSON. I'll toggle off simplify output, toggle on output content as JSON. Test this step. Again, that takes a minute to run through and we get this JSON in the output. In the content, we have everything organized with all of these sections, all of these JSON objects separated just like that. So when you load this JSON file into the vector store, I'm going to click outside of the node and come into the default data loader. Now to load in the JSON directly into the data loader, I'm going to come up to mapping in the input and we can see our OpenAI node gives us all of that JSON. We don't want to have all the JSON coming from OpenAI. We want to limit to just the content right here. So I'm going to leave this as JSON, set mode to load specific data, and come and grab the content from OpenAI. This will only load in the JSON data that is relevant to the content of the listing or content of your data. Now I'll click outside of this node, come into the Pinecone vector store node, test the step, and this will run through. If I check the table view now, this is where we get all of our chunks separated into each individual JSON object. So we have the title, we have the subtitle, we have the summary, the rooms, what they have in them, the beds, and all of these records get separated out as individual items. We have, I think it was over 200 records. So if I just select all, we can scroll down and see all of these individual records getting loaded into Pinecone. So again, if you want a more granular upload of all of your data, this JSON route is going to be what you need to do. So when we get back into Pinecone for this example, this is where we're getting a large number of records, each item getting separated into a different vector. I'm going to jump back into n8n, click outside of the node, come up and save my workflow and leave that up to you. So that's it for this one. Congratulations on making it through the video. As always, if you have any questions on this automation build, you can check the links in the description of this video. Join my school community. I'm always helping people with their workflows. You can post up in the troubleshooting section where I can work through all of your troubleshooting issues that may arise. You'll also have access to this workflow available to download for free. I look forward to seeing you in the group, and I'll see you in the next one.